where she basically, for the first time, stepped out with the Spice Girls. Amid all the family drama, she hasn't really said anything about it or whatever the case is. But over on her Instagram, if you go over there, yeah, she did basically post an IG with all the girls except Mel C. No, Mel B. She wasn't there. So you know, we had Sporty Spice, you got Ginger Spice, and you got Baby Spice, and Posh Spice, but no Scary Spice. So yeah, she posted this Instagram post, well, Melanie C did, and said the most beautiful night celebrating our Emma Bunton over 30 years of friendship. Love you all more than ever. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this year marks the 30th anniversary of Wannabe. Oh my God, I just want to roll over and die. I can't believe that that song is so old. I know when that album first came out, I ran to the HMV. Had to get that CD. Like, Jesus, 30 years ago this album came out. That song, and then of course it followed with the Spice album. So yeah, so it says Vicky B stepped out with her Spice Girls bandmate for the first time since her family drama with Sun Brooklyn made headlines. The designer joined Melanie C, Emma Bunton, Jerry Hollowell for a night of celebrating more than 30 years of friendship. The gathering appeared to be held in honor of Bunton, with Chisholm sharing the snap on IG. Chisholm and Beckham opted for dark tailored looks, while the former bandmates leaned into softer tones. Beckham herself kept things understated but affectionate, commenting on the post to express her love for her former bandmates and said, "Love you so much, XX." And yeah, she did post that in the comments. And then, so yeah, she's choosing not to answer any of the drama that's going, like addressing it, just like David is not doing it. They're very old school with it. I have heard a rumor, according to Rob Shutter, that they said that they might be looking to Oprah and a bunch of others for a sit down. I feel like that at some point y'all can't ignore this, that you will have to address it eventually. And if there's a place that I would say go, I definitely sit down with Oprah, but that's old school. That's how we used to do back in the day. I don't know if people care enough, but then again, um, I say why not? So if she definitely wants to go and have a talk with Oprah and tell her side of the story, her and David sit there and they fierce outfits and sit and have the conversation, then I definitely feel like that's what needs to be done. But speaking of which, so there was this conversation that was had. Speaking of Rob Shutter, because I did see this over on his Substack. I told y'all I do subscribe to his Substack, so that's why I be getting all the good juicy stuff. He is out here saying that Victoria is secretly loving all the attention that this, because the Family Feud is in the headlines and is definitely bringing attention to. It could be either her fashions and even her music. Like, she's been spiking up the charts, I believe, on Spotify and Apple Music. People have been listening to her solo stuff. I don't necessarily know if it's happening with the Spice Girls music, but people have been out here listening to Victoria Beckham stuff. Now, it says, while the Beckham family feud continues to splash across headlines, insiders whisper that Victoria Beckham is privately enjoying the spotlight, even as the drama plays out publicly as painful and deeply personal. Saying Vicky, well, I'm calling her Vicky, but it says Victoria, would never admit it, but she's absolutely thriving on the attention. She's a brand, and controversy keeps the brand alive. Now, as Sun Brooklyn Beckham's explosive accusations and the resurfaced wedding dance scandal dominate social media, Victoria has stayed conspicuously silent. No denials, no clarifications, no emotional statements, and according to those in the know, that restraint is very much intentional. Say Victoria knows exactly how this works, a fashion industry insider explains. Silence creates mystery, and mystery creates relevance. Every headline keeps her name trending, and she's very aware of that. I don't know, because once upon a time, it used to be that silence creates mystery, and being quiet, it helps it reignite or goes away, whatever the case is. However, in certain situations, when it comes to social media now, you can't really just ignore something and expect people to not be like, okay, well, you're going to have to address it because this is looking bad and you really have to come out. So I think back in the day when social media wasn't what it is today, silence created mystery and that worked. I don't know. I think in some cases there might be true with this situation, but I do feel like eventually you're gonna have to address these accusations. You can't sit up here and ignore it because if you got something that's gonna come out and needs to be promoted, somebody's gonna ask you. Now maybe American pundits will play by the rules because they want to have the access. This is why I like the British press. How even though y'all can be messy and real messy in how y'all do things, I do like how y'all had the cojones to really go up to the people and be like, I don't give a fuck, I'm gonna ask. Because they did that with David Beckham recently. They was like, well, with all the accusations with Brooklyn, what are your thoughts on that? He just kept walking and just ignored them like they ain't said a word. And people are like, oh, that's classless or whatever. That's the Brits. They don't care. They gonna get the answer. To me, I'd rather y'all be messy and ask the questions because it's what we all want to know. Because otherwise, you wouldn't be looking at the clips and watching it. Versus American conglomerates wanting to play the game and being like, well, we want to play nice because we want to have access. So we're not gonna ask the question. And so we're just gonna ignore this big ass pink elephant in the room. Okay. And this is why people will go to YouTube pundits because they'll come out and say the things that need to be said versus the ass kissers over at Extra and Access Hollywood and all the other places. So then they also said that she survived far worse scandals than this. Compared to past scrutiny, this is manageable and even useful. Behind closed doors, insiders claim Victoria believes the narrative will eventually swing back in her favor. She sees Brooklyn as emotional and reactive. Victoria is playing the long game. Meanwhile, David is also said to be deeply distressed over the family rift, leaving Victoria to step in for the role of quiet strategist, saying she's hurt, a confidant admits, but she's also pragmatic. Attention equals power. For now, Victoria is letting the headlines swirl, confident that in the Beckham universe, visibility is everything. And then they went on to say that I remember reading something or another where they actually said that at the end of the day, um, if this, Brooklyn ends up splitting with Nicola, and he comes running back home, which he will, with his tail between his legs and on his Kanye West apology tour for getting caught up in drinking the Jim Jones Peltz Kool-Aid and being hypnotized by her and those bony ass hips and her manipulation, then he'd be like, I'm sorry, mom, forgive me. Um, and then she said she'll take him back, as a parent should. It's like, yeah, we hurt, but at the end of the day, you're my child. And with David saying that we have to allow our kids to make mistakes, because that had resurfaced with him saying that, I do agree with that. It's like, we see these people for what they are. We don't trust them as far as we could throw them. And we're trying to warn you that this girl and her family are trouble. Now, if you want to get caught up in drinking the Jim Jones Kool-Aid and you being ostracized, you don't want to listen, then you're just going to have to learn the hard way. I'm like, damn, who knew pussy could be that powerful? So, but so now they're saying that there's another Substack from Rob saying Brooklyn is slammed for biting the hand that fed him. So let's go through that story. Hold on, let me pull that up. So yeah, he's got this story here where it says, Brooklyn Beckham slammed for biting the hand that fed him. Now, David and Victoria Beckham have lived their lives in the spotlight for nearly 3 decades, weathering scandals, tabloid feuds, and relentless scrutiny while building a global brand, a lasting marriage, and a tight-knit family. But insiders say their eldest son, Brooklyn, may finally be pushing things too far. Now, Brooklyn behaves as if he's built this life himself, a longtime family friend has reported to Rob. They said that he forgets his father created a sporting empire from scratch and his mother turned Spice Girl fame into a global fashion business. With no shade, but with David's money, by the way. The doors didn't open by accident. Well, he is a Nepo baby. He's got to learn that, you being a Nepo baby, if it wasn't for you, it's great that you want to sit and find yourself and carve out your own identity. But you got to remember, those doors would not be able to open for you if it wasn't for who your parents are. Same thing with Rocco Richie. He had to come to terms with the fact that, you want to build your little foundation. You want to be who you are. But if it wasn't for Chanta, and if it wasn't for Guy Ritchie, you would not be able to be Mr. Red turned Rocco with your art pieces. and be able to sell them the way you sell them because you are the son of one of the biggest superstars on the planet and a filmmaker. So let's be clear. It's like, yeah, you can do your own thing, but also remember those doors didn't only open because of who your parents are. But of course, if the talent is there, that's also a plus. But the doors do get open based off of who you know. Because nepotism doesn't just exist with celebrities. There's regular people, depending on if you're friends with someone or relative, how they help you get certain jobs. So nepotism goes all, it exists in all different forms. So tensions escalated after Brooklyn married billionaire heiress Nicola Peltz, who's 31. He's dazzled by her family wealth and influence, says a source close to the situation. Now he's using that to criticize the very people who gave him everything. Brooklyn's recent Instagram post accusing his parents of caring only about money and branding. But isn't that all the Peltz care about? Stunned those closest to the family, saying a disagreement over a wedding dress or a dance didn't equal emotional trauma. And insider scoffs. David and Victoria gave him a life that most kids can only imagine. No student loans, no financial pressure, and access to every opportunity. And speaking of student loans, he did drop out of college after a year because allegedly he got homesick. He went to photography school. So I forgot to bring that up in there too. So, yeah, the fact that you got rich parents, you ain't got to worry about taking out student loans and all those other stuff because your parents could just pay it all up at once and be like, just go figure out what you're doing. We're going to pay for it. Because I think also, speaking of Rocco, his parents paid for him to go to art school and, where he got better with his paintings and things. So, yeah. So, it's cool or whatever that you're admiring the Pelts because yeah, they have more money in the bank than your parents do, but you can't sit and complain about, your parents when you're with a family far more wealthier than them and you're still reaping the same benefits in some sort of way. So I just hope that with all of this stuff coming out, and I'm sure there'll be more coming out in the future, that you work it out with your parents and realize that, I mean, if they're toxic and you need to cut toxicity out of your life, then I understand that. But to me, it's just like the Pels ain't faring no better. Like, if anything, it just seems like they're way worse based on some of the things I've heard. So I definitely want to hear from y'all. What do you guys think of this story regarding Nicola Peltz, having pretty much a pattern? Like, the way that she allegedly treated Anwar back in the day, that's what she's doing with Brooklyn. And maybe because he's so young and naive, he doesn't see it. And pussy whoop, he don't see, this broad for who she is. That is not a beauty queen you're looking at. You literally looking at Jasmine from that scene, that season of Angel, where you looking at the most beautiful woman in the world, Gina, Gina Torres. But then if you Fred, you see literally a worm lady. So let me know what you guys think of this story. If you know the reference if you watch Angel. So let me know what your thoughts are on this story and the whole thing of Victoria Beckham stepping out with the Spice Girls. Of course, with all of that being said, people are out here assuming that she is going to that there might be a Spice Girls reunion on the horizon. I don't know if that's gonna happen because they always talk about Spice Girl reunions, and then there's some reason where Mel B opens her damn mouth and fucks up the thing for all the other girls to even want to put something together. So let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments down below.